Hello, how there? My name is Lalu Akode and you are on to Inside Sources. Here is the My Take segment, and today we are looking at your views being feedback to our previous edition. So it is actually your take. Let's go. The first one is in response to the episode that featured Dr. Yemi Farombi. Adewale John says, greed for power is worse. A flipping and flopping government and a gallivanting president. I repeat again, Nigeria's problem is greed for power, title, and position, reign of impunity, lack of patriotism, and religious hypocrisy. Wow. Next is Ahmed Suleiman, who says no condition is permanent. An advice for politicians nationwide, no condition is permanent. But we didn't listen. We go on to the edition that featured Professor Oyewale Tomori. Ladi Omole says, poor environment fuels brain drain. It's worse. The brain drain is akin to a vibrant flower being transplanted from barren soil to fertile ground. Only after transplantation can the flower's true beauty be fully appreciated. Similarly, the so-called brain drain transforms into brain gain when talented individuals are relocated from an unfavorable environment to fertile ones, allowing their skills and potentials to flourish. We are saying that they should flourish here, and we will work on it. Next is Mr. Akwanga, who says that Inside Sources is a delightful program. It's worse. Inside Sources is a delightful program. It's always refreshing to watch a show where you can tell that the host engages people he may not necessarily agree with, but can still have an engaging conversation with them. The fact that it involves high-level discussions about policy, governance, and democracy makes the program a jewel of our nation. Thank you so much for that compliment. Next one is the from handle that simply says rebroadcast. The handle says nothing works with lawlessness. It's worse. When the country is lawless and there is no punishment for any crime, nothing will work in this country till the end of the world. Well, we hope that it works one day. Now, the next one is on the edition that featured the president of ASU. And this is coming from Mr. Obi. He says, citizens must come to the rescue. Nigerian government have been captured by politicians. The citizens must come together and decide how to go about the nation. Next one is about my take, which I titled Memo to Wike, Fubara, and the Inspector General of Police. It comes from Mr. Ken, who says that Wike should hands off and leave Rivers alone. He says this is a bold statement and a direct advice for Mr. Wike to leave Rivers State alone and let the state breathe. He is not the only governor that has been in Rivers State. Also, Mr. Zeb on the same topic says, Fubara had always tried to make peace. He even admitted to kneeling down to beg Mr. Wike. And Mr. Olabaju also on the same topic says, how do you want him to be at peace with Wike when Wike is not ready to cooperate? And finally, on the subject of my memo to Wike, Fubara, and the IGP, Mr. Peter says, Wike is everywhere. Wike is the man. Wike is the leader. And finally, as a comment on the hard times in the country and the need for government to also cut its cost, is from Mr. Leke on Twitter. He says, government officials should lead by example. His words, I enjoyed this program and the ASU president spoke very well. But I want to suggest to our leaders in government, don't let the song Nigerians will sing on how our leaders have not shown us that they are cutting the cost. Don't let the song be as it dey pain us, it dey sweet them. As it dey sweet them, omo, it dey pain us. So let's sing the song. As it dey pain us, it dey sweet them. As it dey sweet them, omo, it dey pain us. And there you have it. Inside Sources will be right back. Welcome back to Inside Sources. Today, as we continue the conversation on the future of Nigeria, I have a young Nigerian investor and entrepreneur, somebody who played a major role in the emergence of some of the unicorns that Nigeria has developed in the fintech sector. I am pleased and delighted to welcome to Inside Sources Mr. Iyin Aboyeji.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you for coming to Inside Sources.
Thank you so much, sir.
And thank you for the fantastic job that you guys have done. And maybe that's where to start.
Yes.
Where do you see the future of this country as a young man?
Yeah.
Where we are today?
Yes.
What's your vision of what is possible, and how do you think we can get there? Let's start like that.
Absolutely. I have a rather unpopular view from most people, which is, a lot of young people you ask this question will probably tell you they're not very optimistic, they're not very happy. And while I acknowledge there are lots of challenges, I have never been more optimistic about the future of this country than I am now.
Fantastic.
And perhaps it's because I'm an avid reader of history. I remember in 1971, again, I wasn't born then, I was born in 1991, maybe 20 years later. But from the history, in 1971, the US unpegged from the gold standard. And that was a very tumultuous time for the US, right? Because ultimately, currencies need to float, things need to be priced in real time, and so on and so forth. But unfortunately, the US economy was sort of weighted to the gold at that time.
Yes, yeah.
And had to be unhitched from that. And it was done by a very unpopular president that we know today as Nixon.
Yeah, the guy that was impeached.
It was impeached.
Yeah.
But if you look at America since 1971, shortly after you had the internet come up, started in 1968, the internet became a real thing. Sort of 20 years later, you looked at the rise of personal computers. I think Microsoft was established in 1975. You think about technological advancements since 1971 till today, right? And you see where it has taken the economy. You will realize that was the single unlock for an extremely deflationary trend that meant that productivity ballooned. And today, the America of today versus the America of 1971 is far from the same. It's probably been the longest run of 50 years of prosperity. And that was just 50 years ago. I feel like we're in a 1971 moment in Nigeria.
Wow.
Two big shifts. First of all, our currency is cheaper. We're one of the cheapest currencies in the world for the first time. And a lot of young people may not understand the significance. But the truth is, prior to now, what we called prosperity was really just us, fueling incredible amounts of debt and cheating our children, right? Because we're living in an unsustainable economy, an economy where 10 years ago, or maybe more like 15 years ago, an entry-level employee of a bank could book a ticket to Paris. That is unsustainable, right? An economy where we weren't paying the full price of energy, right? And government was taking our oil wealth and subsidizing essentially consumption. Now we have created this we have built an economy, or we are rebuilding an economy on fundamentals. First of all, now our currency is cheap, which means our labor is actually more priced everywhere in the world, right? The minimum wage today is about $40, right? A month, right? Which means that there are a lot of jobs that our young people before would have considered not worth their time, that today, especially in the digital economy, are now finally worth their time.
Okay.
And I know a lot of smart entrepreneurs would take advantage of it.
Well, it won't be 70,000 monthly.
No, it wouldn't be. It wouldn't be. It would be more than that, right? But the idea is that's a benchmark.
Yeah.
And think about exports as well. Now our exports are some of the cheapest in the world. Now it actually makes sense to produce in Nigeria, even with the high cost of energy, because labor is fairly cheap, right?
That's true.
With energy costs, we are finally getting rid of a subsidy regime, which means Nigerians have been extremely wasteful when it comes to their energy usage.
I see why you said that your views may not be popular.
They are not popular. We're a wasteful country. People put on the lights. People drive SUVs like as if it's pure water.
The minister said this and he got into trouble.
Well, I'm not the minister, so I can say this very, very boldly. So we're a wasteful society, and now we are learning economics. And it's painful. Learning economics is not easy. I have now apps in my house that are turning off my lights. I'm watching it. I'm watching my bill per second on my phone, right? I'm thinking about changing my cars now because I can't afford the gas guzzling. It's too much on me. I'm looking at changing out my car.
You are a owner of a unicorn. Come on, stop talking like that.
If I spend all the money,
of course,
I won't have any more, and I'll be begging on the streets.
Of course.
So this is an opportunity for young people. Maybe for the old people who are set in their ways, that is the end. This signals the end of many empires, right? And I'm very happy about that. But this signals a new beginning for Nigeria's youth. And if they have the right perspectives and they take advantage of the emerging opportunities, 20 years from now, we'll be talking about a different set of people from Dangote and so on. And that's exactly the desire, I believe, of this administration.
Wow. Well, this is a very interesting opening, and I already feel justified that we're having this discussion because, I wanted us to be able to do two things on inside sources. First of all, I bring, old people, tested hands to come and reflect. But that's what I desire of bringing young people to come and cast a vision.
Yes.
Which is what you are doing exactly, even judging from this, your opening remarks. So my question to you then is, what is the model, that we have to put in place so that we can engage a huge number of our young people? As you know, our population has a huge bulge.
Yes.
Which is a good thing.
Yes.
Now, so in your own view, cast a vision around how technology can help us to solve the problem of poverty, help us to solve the problem, particularly of unemployment of young people. Yes.
I think the first thing is to understand that this country's greatest resource is not oil, but talent, right? We have some of the most talented people in the world, right? And we have an opportunity because there are so many more talented young people where these others came from.
True.
And that means that we have to be thinking very differently. And this is where I would challenge the government about talent in this country. We have to be thinking very differently about talent in this country. We have to be willing to, just as we've done with the economy, now rejig our education system and orient it towards exports.
Okay, interesting.
Right?
Can you explain that?
So the reality is that people talk about Jackpot like it's a bad thing. I think it's the best thing that has happened to this country.
Are you kidding?
Yes.
We're losing doctors.
We can make
ICT,
more.
We're losing
We can make more. We can make more. Everybody should be incentivized to make more. Everybody should be going back into the universities and saying, those doctors I lost, how do I make more of them and send more out? Because there are a lot of young people who will not have jobs if these Jackpot people did not Jackpot.
Wow.
And there are many more young people waiting for more people to Jackpot so they can get jobs.
Wow.
So if we really care for everybody in this country and we're not just out for ourselves, we should be encouraging Jackpot.
For those who are able to do it.
Well, if you have talent in this world,
that's what I'm saying.
Everybody is looking for you because the global workforce is aging.
Yeah.
Right? And our workforce is just emerging and maturing. Furthermore, there are some people in a digital world who will Jackpot without leaving the country.
Yes. So technically, they're not Jackpot.
They are not Jackpot, but they are Jackpot.
Yeah.
I think there's a two-tier economy in Nigeria, if we are telling the truth. There are those who earn in dollars and those who earn in naira. We refuse to acknowledge those who earn in dollars, but in many cases, they are the ones holding up our economy.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
If you wonder why people have not taken to the streets and brought down the president like in other countries, it's because of those people who are in dollars, legitimately or illegitimately. So how do we organize that market instead of ignoring it and pretending it doesn't happen? How do we legitimize it? How do we make it work better for the country? How do we encourage more of that? Right? Because we're going to go through another efficiency boom with AI, with artificial intelligence. And what we've gone from outsourcing to remote work, From remote work, we're going to virtual work. And what virtual work is powered by AI. So how are we preparing for that world?
Okay, can you, for the benefit of our viewers, can you just give us the differences? I have a fair idea, but I can also learn from outsourcing to
remote work, remote work, and then virtual work, which is AI.
Can you just explain?
So outsourcing. The idea with outsourcing before was that I want to save money on labor. So I will take a low-end portion of my operations as a big US company. I will send it over to a poorer country where I can arbitrage labor costs.
So in India.
But I'm still technically doing the same work. So, it's not like the engineering position disappeared. It just moved from US to India. Right?
And I experienced that, when I was in the US.
Exactly.
The folks that I was talking to anytime I had an issue
were Indian.
My mortgage.
But it wasn't like they brought machines to come and talk to you, right? So we achieved some efficiency gains, and people were like, well, look, even the people who build these solutions, right? We can be more efficient with them by having them work from anywhere in the world. So you're not really, it's more like a talent breadth play, more so than a cost savings play. The idea being simply that, look, a young person out of Stanford, right, will cost you $75,000 a year. A similarly intelligent young person out of OAU will cost you $18,000 a year. So it's not as if we are replacing the work. We're just thinking differently about the talent. Especially if the talent is sitting where? In Nigeria. Because they know the same things and they will learn the same way. But where we are going to next is a different kettle of fish.
Tell us about
because what is happening is computers are now replacing the people with artificial intelligence. So I can have that customer service agent not be somebody from India, but a computer who has been programmed to be a customer service agent. He doesn't sleep, he doesn't eat, he doesn't go on leave, he doesn't, and he just costs me compute. And I pay him per task done.
Well, do you pay a robot?
Well, I pay the compute. the cost of the compute. So the compute might be, $20 a day. So I pay him $20 a day. And he can work 24 hours, non-stop.
And there are no labor laws.
And there are no labor. Well, you can't even, it's not about labor laws, it's about economics. But now, here's the thing. The reality is that even with that compute, there's a danger, which is where the ethics comes in. You still need something called a human in the loop. So how are we preparing for a world where our children are the humans in the loop? Saying, oh, this computer, it shouldn't have responded like this, respond like this. But acknowledging that knowledge base is now adding and adding and adding. And then maybe some of our children can be the front-end engineers setting up the AI systems, helping these companies to be able to onboard AI faster. You understand what I'm saying? Maybe some of them can design the systems. You understand? Maybe some of them can build the systems because there's still a lot of data in our parts of the world that is not fully understood.
True.
But what that means is these are deflationary economy effects that are coming over the next 20 to 30 years. For a fact. They're going to make life a lot cheaper. But at the same time, if we don't prepare well, we won't catch the wave. India prepared for outsourcing. Right? And that's why they were able to build a pretty significant, multi-$100 billion economy on outsourcing. We need to prepare for AI.
So this game has gone past outsourcing.
Outsourcing. Now anybody who's doing outsourcing just wants to waste money. Where the biggest companies in the world are not wasting their time with outsourcing.
Interesting.
They're working with virtual workers.
Interesting.
Because efficiency is the name of the game.
Interesting.
So it's a scary future, but because we have a young population, if we start now to retool our education system, retool our job systems, retool our productivity systems, focus on exports, we can build that capacity now. So that in 30 years' time, it is our Nigerians that will be the CEOs of the next generation of companies.
Interesting. Isn't that just very gratifying to even imagine?
We have to imagine a future like that. Otherwise, we're useless in the world. I mean, what is Nigeria good for, if not for the talent?
And with our numbers.
With our numbers, if not for the talent. If the talent cannot take over the world, then what is it good for? We should just close shop and go home.
And we do have tremendous,
we have tremendous talent.
There's no place you turn to in this world that you don't find Nigerians doing very
exceptional work. Yeah, we have Nigerian excellence is how my Oga, the Minister of Digital Economy, puts it. We have a spirit of Nigerian excellence. We have to export that to the world.
True. Now, so talking about innovation and digital economy and all of that, I understand that the minister did announce an innovation fund of 100 million naira, and people are saying that, how much is that?
Well, we have to also unlearn a lot of things in Nigeria. One of the things we have to unlearn in this phase is that we're a rich country. We're not a rich country. We're a poor country in need of jobs.
but if you if you look at, just so to interrogate that issue,
yes,
I understand that, yes, there have been quite a lot of frittering away of our resources, but I think it's how you want to look at it. I don't subscribe to the view that we are poor. And I'll tell you why. And then, of course, you can always, you should respond. If you look at the resources that is available in this country,
yes,
look, a lot of people are making a killing just from illegal mining in this country.
Yes.
I know of people who are mining.
Yes.
We hear the reports all the time, and it's a killing. So it's a lot of money. Now, the new minister is very proactive. He's trying to say, look, let's regulate this thing. You guys can't just be taking over. Now, that is one, just like you said, that is something that is going on, and we are pretending as if it's not happening. About it.
Yeah.
Up until Alake said that, look, we're going to have to deal with this.
Yes, now, exactly.
So that is just one area. You come to oil and gas. If you look at it, really, we're not actually a oil producing nation. We're supposed to be a gas producing nation because there's even more gas than oil. So when you look at all of that, you can't say we are poor, but we are poor to the extent that we've not been able to harness all of these things, and therefore with bad leadership for the most part and poor management.
My point of view is that mineral resources do not make any country rich.
As a potential.
No, I haven't seen it yet. What makes countries rich is their human capital.
I agree with that.
Yes. Now, when I say we're a poor country, all of those things you talked about, we cannot do anything with lithium. We can't.
if there's no talent.
If there's no talent to harness the lithium will find its way to where there's talent to harness it.
That's my point here.
Yes, but that's my point. Right now, we're a poor country with rocks underneath us. That's amazing.
Because we don't have the
talent to harness.
Well, I think you have the talent.
Well, I'm sure you've read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right?
Yeah.
It's not about poverty or wealth. It's not actually about how much is in your bank account. It's about what's between your ears.
True.
And we don't have young people with things between their ears to be able to fully harness the resources that we have under the ground. So let's deal with what is above the ground before we talk about what's under the ground. That's why we can protest illegal mining from now to next year. It will happen. It will continue to happen until Nigerian researchers can make use of those minerals. We can protest what's happening in oil and gas from now to the end of the year. We can talk about gas from now to next 10 years. But until we don't have to import CNG conversion kits, we are going to continue to explore it as potential. Because if we don't have the talent to explore these things, the talent that is there to explore these things, well, they're going to put blockades. Because the thing has become valuable, baseline valuable. But when you look at your percentage of value compared to the global value chain for these products, you are nothing.
It's the blockade. It's the blockade that I'm talking about.
Yeah, but I'm saying for those blockades, they will continue to be there. It's not a function of individuals. It's a natural economic response to a lack of understanding of what the full value chain of those materials is. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, I'm following.
I mean, and that's why I say we're a poor country, because we're an intellectually poor country.
Are we?
We are. All we have are rich diaspora and poor citizens.
Well,
so it's important for us to understand what value truly is.
Yes.
It's not about how much money accrues to governments. If government doesn't know how to do better with it, because we don't have public servants that are intellectually rich, so they can manage it. They will do what they know, which is fritter it away.
Is it that they are intellectually incapable, or there is corruption in the system?
Corruption is a function of a lack of intellectual capacity. If you are corrupt and you have intellectual capacity, there is a way you will do your corruption that it will show. Yes, because I mean, at the end of the day, you give our minerals away. Maybe you're a governor of a northern state.
Yeah.
You give your minerals away. You could have built Dubai with those minerals.
Yeah.
But you don't know better. You don't. So what do? You allow bandits to come and carry it away, kill your people.
Okay. So your view is that those guys don't know better.
They don't know better. They don't know better, and we call it corruption.
But
Well, of course it's corruption.
They go out of the country.
It's not about going to see something, but they don't know how it works. You don't know how a society works just because you visit it.
You're making it, I think it's so difficult to figure out.
No, it is. It is not rocket science. I mean, it is rocket science. Sorry. People say governance is not rocket science. I disagree.
Interesting.
Building an economy is rocket science. It took America almost 200 plus years to figure it out. And every day, they're still trying to improve their system. And it's some things are failing, some things are working.
So you think, okay, and I'm trying to think along with
We underestimate the level of intellectual capacity it takes to build a nation. And so we index on cash. But how much cash are we talking about? The whole Nigerian economy is less than a third of the value of many companies in the world. I mean, if you listed it on the US stock exchange, it wouldn't even be a Fortune 500 company.
Well, I think the value of our economy now should be about 100 trillion.
No, I mean dollars or naira. Well, let's talk dollars,
well,
which is the language of
course.
the world. We're talking about 300 and what?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we have to be honest with ourselves about where we are and what we need to do. If we don't design a system that harnesses our talents and allows us to build an economy of intellectual value, the things under the ground will succumb to economics, and we will call it corruption.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I think we are getting to a meeting of minds.
Yes.
So when you describe, so we both agree that there's a systemic.
It's a systemic issue, and it doesn't matter if you bring anybody to solve it.
But you think that it is not that for instance, the institution, the leaders, you think that it's not that
they're products of their environment.
It's that they don't know.
They don't know. Okay. They do what they do because they don't know.
They don't know better.
Yes. Jesus said, forgive them for they don't know what they do. They don't know what they are doing. They could be presiding over $1 trillion economy, and the shekele they are stealing, or they think they are stealing, could be hundreds of millions of dollars, but they don't know better. So they shortchange themselves, and in the process, shortchange the country.
Well, I like your perspective because it's really making me to think, and it's a good thing to have to, rethink, a lot of these things.
And here's the alarm. Everything is coming to an end. We are moving into a multipolar world at best. A lot of the fundamentals that our country is designed around over the last 60 years, since, Nixonian economics sort of lifted the world. It's all coming to an end. We are entering another era.
Because of
energy politics is coming to an end, right? Electric is coming, right?
So we'll be compelled.
You have to. You may disappear. If you don't build the intellectual base that you need to be able to design a functioning economy that can grow, you'll be stuck at 3%, and it's only a matter of time as your population continues to grow faster than your economy. You are heading to chaos fast.
Now, so you are not saying, you're not saying that we don't have the intellectual capacity.
We have the raw capacity.
You are saying that it's not properly harnessed.
It's not properly harnessed.
Okay.
So I'm saying the focus should shift from trying to harness natural resources to building a proper research base. Right?
Yeah.
Right? To building a proper education system.
Because we have all the institutions.
We have them.
We have tons of research institutions in this country.
Yes. But how many of them are functioning? How many of them even have proper leadership?
That's the point.
How many of our diaspora have we cajoled, compelled, engaged.
So that is the
to
point.
Come in and run these institutions.
That is why I make a lot of.
But it's not because of corruption, though.
I think it is corruption and leadership.
It's leadership first.
Because we've had these institutions. I'm sure you've read the story of Obafemi Awolowo, what they did in the Western region. All this crane. Syria Research Institute. We have it all over the place. So we already have that structure, but leadership, in my view, and partly because of corruption, abandoned that thing, totally impoverished the structure. They are still there.
No, but let me be honest. Those things were designed for a different era. Anybody who's doing research now, I agree.
No, I agree. I'm just saying that in terms of our intellectual capacity as a people, we have experienced a time in this country where we flourished intellectually. That's my point.
Yes, we have. And then SAP came in with Babangida, and then we destroyed systematically our academic institutions.
Exactly.
But what I'm saying is we have an opportunity to get back there.
Absolutely.
Because times and tides are changing. A few people got out. Right? And they are flourishing globally. And we can call on them to help us to build a proper intellectual base.
True.
That is how, for me, the sign of, I have a lot of admiration for this government because they've taken some tough, fundamentalist economic decisions.
Like which one?
Well, I think for me, even if all the administration has done is, make sure energy prices are what they are, right? That they are market driven. Make sure that our currency is floated so that our exports are less expensive, right? And essentially increase wages, stimulates the increase of wages. I think it should be even higher than 100,000 in order to encourage employers to be more productive, right? And then ultimately, I wish they would focus on education. That's my only issue.
And I agree.
That's my only issue with them.
Agree.
But I think they've done these three things. I think it's enough. Now, I think we now need to start to build rebuild our intellectual base to confront the challenges that this economic shift. The problem with the Nigerian economy for a very long time is that our leaders stole us blind, right? Not necessarily by grabbing money, right? But by bribing all of us. Cheap fuel. Cheap fuel, cheap dollar, right?
And even money
and cheap
for
imports.
Voters.
Right? The vote, this is the thing, right? The people they bribe to stay home are more important than the people they bribe to vote.
You're very correct.
They bribe the middle class to stay home with cheap dollar, with cheap imports, with cheap energy.
They made them complacent.
Made them complacent. Now we are facing reality. We need new ideas. We need innovation.
It's coming at a very, very tough.
Somebody must do it.
Because I agree. I also agree that it has to be done.
Yes.
My whole worry is that what it will take, for the very impoverished people.
Yes.
Between now and there.
Yes.
Do you understand?
Well, it will take leadership. So that's the missing piece. The missing piece is leadership. And my belief is leadership will not come from Abuja. Leadership will come from communities.
From communities?
Yes. It will come from me and you going back to our communities and figuring out ways to help and lead our people in time for the next election so they can make better choices. This is the time. It's not all the people that wanted to run for president, they are good people, they are third party, they are this, they are that, they are not politicians. Now is the time. What are you doing for your community? There's hunger on the streets. Are you just insulting the government on Twitter? Or are you going to your communities and making sure people are fed? Innovating new approaches to energy? Ensuring your people are educated about the economic changes and prepared for the future? This is the time we're going to see the leadership that the future requires.
Fantastic.
And it's not about protesting. I mean, God bless the people that protest, but Abuja does not have solutions for us.
Okay, since we're on that topic before we go back, because I still want us to talk a lot about fintech and unicorns.
Absolutely.
But let's sort out this issue of the protest and all of that.
Yes.
And I'll make my case and then you respond. So, like I was saying before, I agree with you. I actually, I embrace your perspective that, look, We have to take these tough decisions. The world is changing. We have to harness our intellectual capacity. Fantastic. Even the last one that you said that, yes, leadership must come from the communities. Excellent point. Now, one gap that I think is critical is when you look at the level of poverty that we are dealing with currently, the multidimensional poverty that is on the ground. It is humongous. And so, while we keep an eye on all those things, there has to be a way to deal right now so that people don't die needlessly. There's so much hunger, and then there's even much more than hunger. There's misery and ignorance. And to your point, education and health. I had health because the human capital indices is the most critical. People must be taken out of ignorance and misery. Because you'll be surprised that all those talents, if we're not careful, they will be destroyed. So we won't have the next Iyin. We won't have the next Wole Soyinka because, the parents just couldn't even afford to take them to school.
Absolutely.
Public education is totally
destroyed. Yes.
That's my point.
I agree with you. And the reality, and I keep telling our leaders whenever I get an opportunity to see them, but now I think we need to turn elsewhere. But I say to our leaders, look, youth are not static. You don't just leave a young person somewhere and they just sit down there docile. They are either constructive or destructive.
Exactly.
There's nothing else. The reality is that the economic situation has driven a lot of young people into illegal fraud. Right? Into fraud, into malpractice, into drugs. We have a crisis, a moral and ethical crisis on our hands.
We have the
driven by Yahoo.
And it has gotten so worse that even the parents.
Obviously, the parents
embrace it.
Exactly. The society. I've told you, we have turned Yahoo from crime to culture. That is where we are because of it. However, fixing that cannot come from Abuja. Can't. It has to come from the local communities. Sadly, it's a problem Abuja might have created. But now we have to turn our eyes away from Abuja and to the people. And those of us who have means have to think differently about the future we are building and what we can do to stem the tide. Solutions will not come from Abuja. Abuja cannot do anything about our problems.
Okay, interesting. I mean, we've talked a lot about the future and casting a vision that we haven't spoken about the unicorns. Can you tell us the story of how you were a co-founder in Flutterwave and Andela, and both of them are one of the top 5 or 7 unicorns in Africa. How did you tell us that story? How did you do it? Because a unicorn, just for the benefit of our viewers, is a company that is valued at $1 billion. And we have 5 in this country. That's not a joke.
It's not a joke.
How do you guys do it?
Well, first of all, I think for everybody's story is different. For me, it has only been God. That's the honest truth. In 2014, when I first started, if you had told me that I would have, helped co-found 2 unicorns, I would have told you, you don't know what you're talking about. I know God will bless me, but not like that. So it has just been God. But I think there are a few key things that we've learned along the journey that made it possible. I think the first is an enduring belief in Nigerian talent. Nigerian talent is capable of so much. And many times they don't get an opportunity to really show the stuff they're made of. Andela is the product of Nigerian talent and their willingness to push themselves to incredible heights. I mean, you have these kids who came, many of them straight out of school. Maybe some of them never seen a computer before. And within 4 years, they are working at Facebook and Google earning hundreds of thousands of dollars. It cannot happen anywhere else. No education system, no this, getting arrested by the police. In spite of it all, they designed a fantastic future for themselves. So that they are the unicorns, really, right? We were able to build a unicorn because we were working with unicorns, right? And then the second, I mean, with Flutterwave, it's really having a genuine interest in your customers, and making a market by doing things the right way. You know, with Flutterwave, we worked. I mean, Emefiele is often scorned, but let's talk the truth. He managed to build a policy environment where fintechs could thrive.
With the support of the administration.
Yes, with the support of the administration, including yes, exactly. So, in spite that rose grew out of a concrete because there were players in the sector who took a nationalistic and patriotic worldview, right, and engaged. And thankfully, we had allies in the administration, like Prof. Who could help us to achieve Professor Shibanjo, right? His Excellency Professor Shibanjo. So that is what enabled us to grow. And I think a lot of people expect things to happen automatically without putting in the work to actually build things right from a nationalistic point of view. And I think it's a mistake. It's a mistake. These things don't happen by accident. Engagement, you have to orchestrate it. And you have to do it not from a monopolistic point of view, where you are only selling your own interest, but where you are pushing the interest. I didn't know when I was working on BOFIA, when I was working on payment systems legislation, banking and other financials, Financial Institutions Act, when I was working on PSSP guidelines, when I was working on PSB guidelines, I didn't know where they would end up.
And those regulation framework.
These are the frameworks that built this industry.
That produced the unicorns.
That produced the unicorns. Without those laws, we wouldn't be where we are.
So there are some good stories, actually.
Great stories. Great story. I mean, I remember the time when a prof on a whim took a bunch of ministers to Silicon Valley in 2017.
Yeah, that was
right?
Trip too.
That was a game changer, right? The money flowed in after that trip. If we're being honest, he, in many ways, actually inspired this wave of funding that made us unicorns.
Please tell the story.
Yeah, Prof took, I was on the National Industrial Council. You know, I was the youngest member. Many times I would be stopped at the gate by, thanks to DCOS, who come and rescue me from Aso Villa.
I remember.
You know, but at that time I was able to engage Prof and say, look, the digital economy is something we need to pay attention to. And he had aides around him, you know, who understood. And he came to Lagos, he had a tour. He said, where do we take this? And we said, look, let's go to Silicon Valley together and show the world that Nigerian government will support a digital economy. Because that is important. That stamp of legitimacy from your government is what enables dollars to flow in.
Interesting.
And from that trip with Minister Okenelema, with Ms. Yewande Sadiku, that cast of people, you know, was really a strong delegation to Silicon Valley. And even though they had nothing to do with what came after, they made it happen.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. I mean, I was also on that team too.
Yes.
To the team that was led by the former vice president. And I know that he, even while he was in office, did a lot of the speeches that he tried to explain to.
Yes, he was our biggest advocate. He was our biggest advocate. And the fact that these countries continue to be announced by the vice president of the country gave it legitimacy. Right? So that is what it means to engage. You know, that is what it means to engage. And now we're past that, you know, we have passed the level of even just legitimacy. We are inside the room now.
Exactly. So what do you think, how do you think people like Bosu and the current administration can take this forward?
Yes. Especially,
you know, and I think I asked you that question before. How can we use that to solve the problem of youth unemployment?
Yes. So I think of all the ministers since this ministry was created in 2010,
right,
this minister has been by far the most strategic.
Okay.
And you won't get a report card on a strategic minister from social media.
Of course.
You know, most of the people there don't know what they're talking about.
I do that very well.
So why do I say that? You know, he has platformed 3 key issues that we've been crying for a long time, that are national interest issues. Okay. The first is talent. You know, I built Andela. I helped design Empower, right? As a civilian, just volunteer. And we've been struggling with this talent conundrum because we know the potential that Nigeria has as a digital economy talent hub at scale. But the key question has been, how do we break through the bureaucracy of the education ministry and so on and so forth? How do we get a whole of government approach to focus on talent? And honestly, I think his initiative is the most important to the president, or should be.
Interesting.
Because if you have 1 million young people in digital economy jobs earning a minimum of $10,000 a year,
that's a revolution.
That's a revolution.
That's a revolution.
That's a revolution. He should consider his election assured.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Second of all is connectivity, right? Now the telcos have come back to the table.
Talents and then
Connectivity, right? He's published a bold plan for 90,000 kilometers of fiber, which is critical because, see, the telcos are chomping at the bit to increase prices of communication on ordinary Nigerians. Yeah. They're not even willing to price discriminate, right? They're blackmailing us up and down, right? And the reality is that the average Nigerian cannot afford an increase in communication costs, not at this time. Not at this time. And I understand their pressures, but they can cost save. There's a lot of waste in that industry. There are things they can do. They can innovate. They have the budget and the room to do so.
I'm sure you remember that even when you were going through the Bofia thing, there was a lot of resistance from the same industry. So, I think it's really important for us to sit down and think in national interest. Now, they are trying their best. I have to admit, they are trying their best. Their solutions need to be, and we have to talk more. But you see, this bold plan is going to help everybody. That's right? Connectivity, right? Because if we can lower connectivity costs, we can reduce some of these costs, around diesel and so on. And maybe we can innovate on solar and some of these things. We can maybe bring costs down a bit by enabling public infrastructure. Well, you also need a lot of the state governors to also...
Well, that's it. The missing link is the state governors. But you know what? We'll shame them into doing it. Because at the end of the day, the best chance any state has to increase IGR outside of Lagos is to tap into the digital economy.
Yeah, especially when they have the numbers.
When they have the talent right there. Yeah. So I think they would end up doing the needful.
What's the third point?
The third point is preparing us for the future with AI. And I think that's the most misunderstood point. Everybody and I think that's the difference between having a technocrat minister and a politician minister. Because a politician minister will pay lip service to AI like the last guy did, but not really take it seriously enough to do something, even to bring himself down as a minister to launch $100 million fund just so we can start. And then obviously within a month, he launched a $1.5 million fund, which is about 2 billion naira. So you can get the sense that he's willing to actually just iteratively move things along because AI is the nuclear ticking bomb of our time. AI could be the difference between us ending up becoming an Afghanistan or a Pakistan and us becoming an India.
Wow. Why not becoming an America?
Well, we'll get there. We'll get there. But let's finish our breakfast.
Absolutely. Before we talk about lunch. Anyway, thank you so much. Because of our time, I'll just ask one last question. So the president in his independence speech came up with the idea of a national youth conference.
Yes.
And I felt that, okay, now it's a different thing whether people accept and understand it, but it seems to be his own way of responding to the youth restiveness.
Yes.
But it will take a lot to do it properly and to get the young people to actually be part of it. What do you think about that idea?
If I can speak honestly, I think while the president is well-intentioned, he must also recognize that we have a crisis of leadership among the youth. The youth have not fully understood their role in leading the country and the economy. And I think that what should precede such a conference is a series of engagements around leadership with the youth. And I was very hopeful of some of the appointments he made with Fela Durotoye, but I haven't seen much, maybe because they are constrained. Because the government
we've not had a lot from Durotoye, actually.
Exactly. I was very excited about some of those appointments. I thought those were the more important appointments, actually. I didn't really care for the other stuff. But I think that if there is a way to sort of finance a national conversation, maybe before a national conference, but a national conversation around leadership. I don't think it would be a waste of money, because if you don't train people, if you don't put people in a position of responsibility, they'll just make demands. And today, that is what leadership means to our young people. Leadership is a position from which you make demands. You make demands on people, you make demands on people on top, you make demands on people by the side, you make demands of people beneath, you know.
Not understanding that you can actually create value.
Yeah, not understanding that leadership is a position of responsibility. So we will just mirror the leadership we are criticizing in Abuja if the young people don't really learn that actually this is the time to create solutions that prove you can handle this country.
Yeah, that's what I mean by, you know, you have to understand that you have to create value.
You have to create the value. You have to solve the problems.
Exactly, so that you hand the leadership. You hand it. You imagine the process. You imagine it.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
Bringing solutions.
So I think I fear, you know, this confab will be a political process. Some people get jamboree. People will talk. And that would be the end. That's my fear. I mean, I believe in my government enough to hope that they will do better. But I don't know whether youth are ready. I understand the president's heart, but I don't think the youth are ready. Even though they may say they are, I don't think they are ready for a conversation about leadership.
Interesting. Thank you so much. So what are you trying to do around Future Africa, which is your new...
So for me, you know, again, I can't be talking about the lack of leadership and not demonstrate it. And the honest truth is that with Future Africa, you know, we were a venture fund. And typically, our job as a venture fund is to sit down and make investment decisions into those who are ready. But we recognize that this is a special time and there's an opportunity to recrop the pool of startups with companies that are actually delivering solutions to our problems.
Interesting.
And so we designed this accelerator called Accelerator Africa, where we're working with startups to build businesses that can, from Nigeria, from Lagos, get to $1 million of revenue within 18 months.
The companies that will get to
$1 million, from zero to $1 million of revenue within 18 months.
How many of such companies?
So we work with 20 companies a year, 2 batches. Wow. We've had a lot of applications, especially from diaspora, but even from people in Nigeria. And we work with the companies. I work with them one-on-one. That's what I spend most of my time doing. I sit in Yaba and I engage these startups. I sit down with them. I take them to sales meetings. I engage them. I fund them and help them get to that point. Because you know, yes, you know, we did Andela, we did Flutterwave, but we need a whole new bunch of solutions, you know, in order to tackle this hydra-headed monster of food inflation, of dollar, of energy inflation. You know, there's so many challenges. And how can we turn those challenges to global
insecurity?
Businesses?
Do you have any?
Yes. I mean, we can use artificial intelligence and satellites actually to track insecurity and make it a public concern so that the bandits have nowhere to hide.
Yeah.
Right? And those are the kind of ideas that we are looking at, nurturing the entrepreneurs that have built competence in delivering these solutions and supporting them with the right access and capital.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming to Inside Sources. You know, we missed the part to tell Nigerians that your dad is actually a pastor.
My dad is a pastor.
Your story that you actually rose as your parents were rising, you two were rising. You know, you want to tell us for a minute just about your background, and the values that actually produce who you are today?
No, I think for me, I was very lucky in only one respect, that I was born into the family that I was born into, because I am a pure product of grace. My father, you know, my grandparents, my granddad on my mom's side was a missionary. My granddad on my dad's side was a butcher. Wow. And they gave birth to these kids, you know, and they rose and I watched them rise. I mean, when I was born, 1993, 1994, my father was working for Now Merchant Bank. My mother was a stay-at-home mom, and a pastor. I watched them build themselves, you know, first of all, you know, in corporate Nigeria and get to a certain level and then continue on in spiritual work. So I know that Nigeria gives opportunities to those who believe in God and do things the right way. I know Nigeria can work for me. When people say Nigeria works for me and my family, I say amen. Because I know that it can. I know it can. I know it actually can. You can follow the rules in this country and you can make it. That has been my story. With the help of God. And it's not easy.
Of course.
But I'm hoping that because God made it easy for us, at the very least, we can make it easy for others.
For other people. Fantastic. Very, very nice way to stop. And, that is why we say on Inside Sources that we believe that Nigeria will prevail. And it's the stories of people like yours, that actually reinforce that view that Nigeria will prevail at the end of the day. Thank you so much, Mr. Iyin Aboyeji, founder of Future Africa, entrepreneur and investor, for coming to Inside Sources. And thank you for the great work that you are doing. Thank you for the faith you have in this country. And thank you for the hope that you have even articulated today.
Thank you very much, sir. I'm grateful.
Thank you. And there you have it, another edition of Inside Sources. Like we always say, we believe that Nigeria will prevail. We won't relent. We believe in that future, and it will happen by the grace of God. I believe it will happen in my time. My name is Laudo Akonde, and by the grace of God, I'll see you next week. Thank you for watching.